Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being a part of the brand new Winding Trails Media podcasting network. If you had listened to Excelsior Journeys in the past, you'll notice that the URL for the Podbean station has been changed. It is now completely changed into what is now the Winding Trails Media Podcasting Network. So you're not only getting Excelsior Journeys, but you're also getting the syndicated episodes of Right Pack Radio. You're getting David Allen Lucas's new Exploration Beyond show, and you're going to be getting a lot more in the future. So really hope that you're going to stick with us and see where this entire network journey will take us. So if you haven't checked it out yet, just go to windingtrailsmedia.podbean.com so you can subscribe, so you can comment, so you can like and share, and just tell everyone about what's going on. Now, you've probably heard of the phrase "make love, not war." If you had seen Avengers Endgame recently, you'll have seen a very de-aged Stan Lee, the late great Stan Lee, saying the exact same thing with enough said bumper sticker during the 1970s segment. Not going to say anything about that part. Just gonna mention that for those of you who haven't seen it. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, see it. Just go see it. And so there is that phrase, "make love, not war," that was very, very popular in the 1960s through today. As much as I love that phrase, there's another one that really sticks with me, and that's "make art, not house payments." And a big reason why is because of the person that I have here with us this week. The phrase "make art, not house payments" basically just doesn't mean don't make anything that's going to make money. Obviously, as an artist, as someone who wants to become an artist full time and make that the source of my income, just as it is with everyone, that's not what it means. What it means is don't sell out. Be true to yourself, be true to your vision, and focus on that. Don't focus on the trends that are out there. And a big reason why I hold on to that is because of our guest, which is author Kendall Gray. Now, Kendall and I have known each other in the social media circles for quite a few years. I've been a fan of her books such as Strings, Beats, Nocturnes, and been thrilled to hear all of the success that she's had with all of her other books. Since 2012, she has come out with 15 different full-length novels. And I am so thrilled that we get a chance to finally sit down and talk instead of just typing to each other. We finally get to chat with each other, and I finally get to find out what it is that really drives her forward on her own Excelsior journey. So without further ado, please let me introduce to you Kendall Gray. Kendall, how are you today?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, George.
And thank you so much for accepting the invite. I really, really appreciate it. There have been a couple of times when we have been trying to make this interview happen. Unfortunately, schedules get in the way. And apparently, one big thing got in the way this past weekend, which was your the latest convention that you had gone to. Tell us
Yes.
about what you've just enjoyed and learned from.
It was called Inkers Con, and it's Alessandra Torre. She's an author, a romance author. She is
Mhm.
the one who kind of is the brainchild of it. She put the whole thing together with the help of her sister and a whole bunch of other people. And it was amazing, first of all. Um, there were, I think, I don't know how many people, probably about 150 authors, some of them aspiring authors, some of them established authors, just people who were looking to learn more about marketing, promotion. Some crafting stuff was going on. I think they had a boot camp the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before the other part of the convention where I was. So it just really catered to people who are writing at any level. I mean, just starting out all the way to, best-selling authors. And it was just really, really amazing. Lots of great info. You go through all these these workshops and stuff, and you're listening, and your brain's just like exploding over and over again.
Yep.
That was me, and I'm like, I got up this morning, I was like, wow, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you just feel like you're just all pent up and everything, with energy, with inspiration and everything. You just want to just get it all out. You're ready to just like run through a brick wall that was like the writer's block. And
Yes.
tear right through it and get going on the next masterpiece that you have going. So I definitely know that feeling. I've been to several conventions myself, several conferences, and it's just been just a really great feeling. You really can't, I mean, obviously you can sell it because, people are, you have to pay admission. But when it comes to that sort of feeling, like you can't just bottle that up. You have to let it all out. You have to, spread it out with the world. Now, one of the things that you have been able to take advantage of recently has been the venue of audiobooks, and I understand that you now have two audiobooks that are out there in the world. Now, as an audiobook narrator myself, when I heard about this and everything, I was thrilled, to see that someone else was getting into the audiobook game. So how has it been for you so far?
Well, it's first of all, like you said, very exciting. It's something completely new to me. I'm a avid listener of audiobooks, so I'm quite aware of, the impact that they can have on readers. And as I get busier and busier in my own just regular life, I find that I have to lean a lot more on audio because I just don't have time to sit down and read like, I used to. So whenever I get in the car, my kids all have activities going this place, that place, and I just pop in an audiobook and listen to that. Or if I'm doing the laundry or the dishes or something, just mundane, I'm always listening to an audiobook. So I'm really a big fan of it as a reader or a listener. And I know that it's a very fast growing industry, I guess. So I thought, well, people keep asking me, when are you going to put an audiobook out? And I said, all right, I'm just going to bite the bullet and go for it.
There you go.
I just hopped on ACX. It was very easy. I mean, if there's any authors out there thinking about doing it, I did it. I figured it all out on my own. I didn't have to rely a whole lot on other people. So it was very easy, super intuitive. You just go on there, you put out what give a little description of what you're looking for and a blurb for the book and stuff and a sample, and people just find you, and then they audition. And for Strings, it's a first book in a kind of a comedic erotica series, and it's by far my most popular book. So I thought that'd be a good place to start, because if I could sell that, I know I have I can keep going with it if it worked out. And I just got super, super lucky with the narrator I chose. She, as soon as I heard her, I was like, okay, this chick is it. She is Letty Dillinger, perfect. And so I narrowed it down to like maybe the top 3 or 4 who I thought could do it, even though I knew in the back of my mind that Lessa was going to be the narrator. And I made my husband listen to him. I didn't say anything. I just like, what do you think? And he was like, that chick right there.
Yep.
So we both were like, oh yeah, sold. It worked out great. And
yeah, she is really, having listened to the sample myself and having gotten my copy of Strings already through Audible, I am very much convinced that Lessa is, and what's her full name? It's
Lessa Lamb, Lamb.
Lessa Lamb. Okay.
Yes.
Guys, you definitely want to pick this up. Lessa Lamb does a terrific job, and just as Kendall perfectly described it, comedic erotica. She's got a style of her writing that just blows you away. It just keeps on making you either turn the page or clicking next, whatever. It's however you read it, whether it's in paperback or digital, whatever. It's a great read. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely an NSFW type of read. I'm sure Kendall will agree with me on that.
Yes.
and God bless her for it. So it's like I said, it's a fun read, and Lessa does an amazing job bringing that book to life. So with that in mind, do you think, do you have like other characters in mind, other narrators in mind to do the rest of the books? Because I know it's not just from Letty's point of view on the other ones.
Yeah, so there are 5 books in that series, and they change, like the point of view changes for each book. So the first one is the singer, and the second one is the drummer, and it goes on. So I have spoken to Lessa about, the possibility of her carrying on with the other characters, and she did get to play some of the other characters, as they're interacting in String. So we got a little taste of how she might narrate, Jinx in book 2, or Rax in book 3 or whatever. But, I haven't set anything in motion yet about that. I'm just going to kind of wait and see how things go with sales for the first audiobook. And if it goes really well, then absolutely. Like the other thing that is really telling about all of this is that people who have listened to it have just gushed over Lessa. I mean, they're like, this is the best narrator I've ever heard. And they're all just kind of going crazy. So I'm like, I would be stupid to try to, mess that up. But I hope that if I do continue on with the series, that she would hopefully be able to be the narrator for at least some of them. I think there's Nocturnes is told from 2 points of view. So I might look into getting like a dual one, like a man and her or whatever, but
makes sense. And Rock, like that one brings back Letty as well. So, so you get to you definitely going to bring Lessa back for that one.
Absolutely. Like for sure. If I got to Rock, she would definitely have to do that one.
Awesome. Now tell us just a little snippet about the whole Hard Rock Harlots series. Because it is a, like I said before, very fun read, and something that I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear about.
Yeah, it is fun. It's mostly funny. There's a few books that are a little more serious than the others, but the first one is Strings, and it's definitely very over the top, kind of wild, crazy rock chick who she's just trying to make it. She's a waitress at the barbecue shack in Athens, Georgia, and she's like, I'm better than this. I can do so much more, and she's just really, really fighting to be the rock star that she feels like she is. And it starts off with her on her 25th birthday, and she's at the bar, and she's lamenting her her life, and notices the guy next to her, and they start up a conversation, and it ends up getting pretty raunchy pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
But the next day she calls her manager, or manager calls her and is like, I've got you a tour. There's only one problem. You're touring with this other band that's their rival band that they all hate. And they go to meet him, and it turns out, of course, it's the guy that she did all this stuff with the night before.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. So, and it just kind of goes downhill from there. But
yeah,
a lot of people say that, they read if you look on the blurb, if you go on Audible or Amazon or whatever, there's the description starts off with this really like 2-paragraph long warning about, all the people who shouldn't read this book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's meant to be really funny. And in fact, I wrote it as a joke.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning to use it at all, but I just was like, I think I was frustrated because I don't know, another book that I had written, it had a lot of things in the blurb, but it seemed like some reviewers weren't really paying attention to that, and I was a little irritated about it. So I jokingly wrote this completely over the top blurb, thinking, ha ha ha, and I sent it to my husband, and I said, what do you think about this? He was like, you should absolutely use that. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, do it. And I did. And I'll tell you what, that blurb has sold me more books than anything else. It was the best idea I ever had.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for putting that in at all. And I think that was a brilliant idea to do that, because it, like you said, it's a very funny blurb, but at the same time, it basically just kind of, puts it out there for anyone who would dare to put like a 1-star because like, oh, this is too this or that. It's like, well, look at the description right there. It's not like you have to hit a button to read that part. It's going to just show up right there.
Right.
And it also does it in a way that reflects the tone of the series.
Exactly.
Which I think is fantastic, because if someone is reading that and they get a kick out of it, then all of a sudden this is going to be like, well, let's go ahead and see what the rest of this is like.
Yeah, that blurb is legit. I mean, and I tell people, I'm like, read the blurb. I'm like, read the warning, but don't just read it, heed it, because I'm serious. It's funny, but it's also serious. So please pay attention.
Right. So with that in mind, did you have like bring the same sort of style, the same sort of attitude to the other books that you have? Like, I know the other book that just came out on Audible was Ruined.
Right.
Now that one is obviously a very different type of story.
Yes.
Correct, from Hard Rock Harlot. So
yes.
What was that experience like dealing with that one?
You mean just the blurb, or the story itself?
The audio.
The audio. Gotcha. Yeah, that one. It's funny. I got a lot more people auditioned for Rune for the audio than Strings, which kind of surprised me. I didn't expect that, but there were a lot of people who were interested, and they liked that blurb too, because it's kind of got a nice little twist at the end of it. And so there was a lot of interest, and it's been really good too. It hasn't gotten as much, interaction or traction as Strings had, but I didn't really expect it to, because most of my readers are erotica readers. And, one of the disadvantages, I will say, of sticking with the same name for multiple genres is that, I have built a following or a readership mostly based on my erotica books. Yeah. And so when, I have a new book out, people are like, well, is it like Strings? And I'm, no. And so there's a little bit of a disadvantage to that. And the same thing holds true with, if somebody finds Ruined and is like, oh, wow, this was great, I want to go and look at your back catalog, and then they're finding, Strings, it's totally different books. Yeah. And in fact, Ruined, for all the F-bombs that Strings and Hard Rock Harlots has, there's one F-bomb in Ruined. I mean, it's like PG-13, which is probably, for me, it's the tamest book I've ever written. So, I'm kind of dealing a little bit with that. I have all these people got hooked on Strings, and they're like, what's next? And I'm like, well, Ruined. And they're like, oh, I don't really read urban fantasy.
That's kind of how I dealt with From Parts Unknown, because I hold that one, like that 5-part serial in very high regard, and it barely gets any sort of reads at all. Mainly because it's such a niche market. It's such a, like a niche sort of genre with like science fiction sports, and it's also has adult characters and quite a bit of adult language, quite a bit of violence that's in there. That's not the same sort of comic book style action that's in the Excelsior books, which have zero profanity at all. So I get it. I totally get it. But it plays right into the phrase that you said several years ago: make art, not house payments. Right. Because if you just wanted to stick with what was making money, you would have just stuck to that one genre. But you got stories that you want to tell, you want to get out there, and you want to be true to those. So definitely get those, by all means, get those out there, because the great thing about these books, about writing in general, especially this day and age in this digital era that we're in right now, is that they never go out of print. They never go out of style, and they will eventually find their audience no matter what's out there. So the best you can do is keep doing what you're doing, is create your catalog. And you're off to a great start with this. Like I'm sitting there just like, okay, well, I kind of have 3 books, but then if you count From Parts Unknown, it's really 7. As a 5-part serial, so like, I've been doing that since, shuffling back and forth since 2008, really.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just, there's only like that sort of range that I have right now. So seeing the kind of work that you've been doing since 2012, it's been fantastic. So with that in mind, let's go back to the very beginning. Let's go to that lightning bolt moment that you had that made you say, I want to go in this direction. I want to be a writer, because I'm sure you can agree with this, that it's not exactly you choosing to be a writer. It's kind of writing choosing you.
Yeah, I think you're right in a lot of ways. Some people already know that I'm like a huge whale fanatic, which is a strange thing to be, but I ended up taking a class actually through the University of Georgia for that. Funny enough, I had a friend who was working on her PhD in education. I used to be a teacher, and that's how I knew her. And she was telling me, I'm doing my dissertation on this class that they call the whale class. And it's all about, her basic idea was that you learn best when you are immersed in whatever the topic or the content is that you're trying to learn. Makes sense. And so what they did is they partnered with Cape Ann Whale Watch out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. And what we would do is, the people who were in her study, we were in the class, and part of the class was that we would go out on this whale watch boat every day, sometimes a couple times a day, and we would learn everything we could learn about the whales, and then we would teach it to the passengers, because they already had interns on the boat, and we just kind of shadowed them. And then we, as we were learning, we were teaching other people on the boat as well. And anyway, long story short, I completely lost my mind when the first time I saw a whale, and was like, this is the best thing that I've ever seen in my whole life.
Wow.
And it just changed me. So I just totally fell in love with whales. And from then on, every summer I would go back up to Gloucester, watch the whales, and just be in my happy place. And one summer while I was up there, I picked up Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, and I hadn't been much of a reader at all at that point. I, would read occasionally, but not much. And I just read Twilight and was like, oh, this is so good. And, whatever you want to say about it, it hooked me. I don't know if I'd feel the same about it today as I did then. And I don't, it doesn't matter, because it was life-changing for me. So I fell in love with this book, and I was like, and I devoured, of course, all the other ones. And then I was like, I think I could write a book. I could write a book about whales. I could write a book about a whale biologist. And I love rock stars. I could make a book about a whale biologist who falls for a rock star. And it's crazy. And it was like this crazy idea that just went all over the place. It's like whale biologist, rock star who is actually a sentinel, like a protector of human beings, because I also love, the fantasy elements of things. So yeah. I had to throw that in. And then elementals, so there's earth, air, fire, and water, and the elementals are all fighting, and it just went on and on. It just snowballed into this crazy, wild story that's a little bit all over the place, but I still love it. Like, I was talking to a friend about it this morning, and I was like, that first book was called Inhale, and it I can look back at it now and say, I spent 4 years writing that book and rewriting that book. I rewrote it like 13 times. And, I tried to get an agent, and the agents weren't interested. I tried to get an editor to get on board. The editors were like, no. So finally I said, I'm just going to self-publish this. And I did. And it's a good book. I mean, it definitely has problems. I can look back at it now in hindsight and say, yeah, I should have done this, should have done that, whatever. But I did learn a lot from it, and I do believe that though the first one is a little rocky in places, I think that the other two that follow are much better. And so I'm looking at it like, this is a learning experience. the more I write, the better I get, the more I learn, the better I can handle things and figure things out. And, I took classes, I went to conferences, did workshops, read all the books, did everything. And so, the bottom line is you got to start somewhere. And that's where I started.
Mm-hmm. So you have that trilogy.
Yes.
And then what came next for you? What was the how did it feel like actually like kind of getting your work out there? Was it getting responses? Was it getting some feedback for you? Were you getting people reaching out to you via like social media or something, asking like when's the next one coming out? What was that sort of what was that experience like?
Well, this was back in 2012 when the first one came out. So that was a very different publishing landscape than what we have today. So it was, self-publishing was still a little bit, it's kind of at the end of its infancy, I think, around that point. So there was a lot of room for people to step up and fill in like the various niches. So Inhale did okay. It wasn't like spectacular, didn't hit any lists or anything like that, but once the second book came out, the second one was called Exhale, and then the third was Just Breathe. And another author told me, hey, if you put your first book for free or 99 cents, then a lot of times it will trigger people to pick it up. And then if they read it, then they get hooked. They'll read the second, third, whatever. So I put it for free for a while. And it was like I had a lot of downloads, like way more than I expected. I think I had like 40,000 downloads in like 2 days or 1 day.
Wow.
So for me, that was like, whoa, and then, you think about, all right, say 10,000 people download your free book. If even a quarter of those, or say even 10% of those read it and like it, then, you've got the guarantee buy through to the next book and a lot of times to the third book. So you have to, I kind of looked at it like that. Well, of course, you got to have money to keep your business going, but at the same time, you got to pull readers in as well. Otherwise, you're not going to sell anything. So anyway, that was kind of how I dealt with it. And I did get a good read through from Exhale and Just Breathe after that, which to me paid off well enough.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So after that whole experience, after getting the whole trilogy out there, what sparked the idea for the next story, and which one was that?
So after Just Breathe, that was I finished it all up, and in my heart I had lots of other ideas because I'm an urban fantasy girl at heart. I love urban fantasy; it's my jam, and I really wanted to continue with that. But at the same time, I knew I was watching the market, and this is when 50 Shades of Grey and all these other like erotica books started becoming a lot more popular. And
Gotcha.
I was like, all right, so I can keep doing urban fantasy and, make okay money. But if I really wanted to build my readership, what if I just tried this erotica thing? And so that's where Strings came in. And it was, in some ways, it was a little bit of well, if this is what you want, I'm going to give it to you, except I'm going to give it to you on my terms. And the whole, like you were talking about, make art, not house payments, that was in rock. That was the phrase that Letty kept saying. And because in a lot of ways, Letty is me, not all the sexual stuff. I'm just talking about her personality. Her personality is like, I'm going to fight and do whatever I got to do. But, I would rather make art than make house payments. Now, the fact of the matter is you got to make some money because you do have to pay your bills. And so at some point you can, if you want to call it selling out, whatever word you want to call it, you can do other things that you might not be as wild about in order to get to the things that you are wild about. I think it's okay to do that. And I think that's what I've been doing.
I think so. Yeah. Like basically like what in the way that, like I said before, the way that I interpret make art, not house payments, is to basically tell the story that you want to tell and worry about the market later, worry about the market, in the future and everything. Like if you have like this burning desire to tell this specific story, and if it happens to be in the genre that's really hot right now, then fabulous, go for it.
Right.
But you're not selling out. You just happen to be telling a story that you want to tell, that it just so happens a lot of other people want to read or want to hear.
Yeah.
I remember there's a great documentary called Tales from the Script. I think it's still on Amazon Prime, but it talks to like a whole bunch of different screenwriters, and one of them is Stephen D'Souza, who made his bones as being one of the go-to screenwriters for action films.
Mm-hmm.
And he says in there, he considers himself very lucky that he just happened to have come into his own during a time when the type of stories that he wanted to tell were the ones that everyone wanted to go see. So
Right.
you make no apologies for that. You go, you take it and you run with it. You're not selling out. It just so happens that you're tapping in. That's what you're doing. You're
right.
not, it's not selling out. It's tapping in.
Right. And the other thing is, like I said, with strings, I sort of was like, all right, well, that's the genre you want. Well, I'm going to do what I want with that genre. And so it was, in a way, I was looking at it like a compromise between the reader and me. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you what you want. You're going to get it the way I want.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So did you have a full series planned out for Hard Rock Harlots when, or was it just like, let's get strings out first and see where that takes us?
Yeah, I honestly, I wrote strings and I thought this probably won't do anything. I mean, if it does, great. But I never expected it to really, I mean, I thought, yeah, they'll, erotica readers might like it. But I didn't expect it to be, my best-selling book, which is, it's to this day my best-selling book. So, in my mind, I left the possibility open. It was definitely one of those, well, I have all these other characters within that I've already built in here, and I can always write about them later, but I had no direct plans to do it from the get-go.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
So Strings comes out and it hits, and all of a sudden, that's where, was that where people were asking you for more, or was it just like, were you just kind of throwing it out there to your readers, just like, well, I have more if you want to read it?
No, they asked for it. I wasn't like, I was open to writing more, but I was kind of, people were like, I need book 2. I'm like, there is no book 2. Let me get on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. And the thing is I left it open-ended enough that I can always go back and add more books. And I say it's a complete series. Well, it's complete for now. That doesn't mean I can't add more. And I mean, if an idea hits me and I'm waiting, I'm like, hello, Letty, speak to me anytime now. I would be happy to write more of that because I enjoy those characters a lot. And even though it's not my preferred genre to write, I still enjoy it enough that it wouldn't be a job. I mean, it'd be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause when you said that you're gonna get what you want, but you're gonna get it my way, it almost sounds like you said how Letty is you. So does that mean the readers are shades?
Oh, I don't know. I never really thought about it like that. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have to ponder that.
Definitely, they're coming back for more apparently. So
yeah.
So with that in mind, you have in book 2 you have Beats, so you have Jinx the drummer, right? So are there elements of you and her as well, or is that someone else, other sort of dynamic that you were just kind of playing on for her?
I don't think she's not really me. I mean, I guess there are probably parts of her in me, or me and her, whichever way it goes, but not as much. I mean, Letty is definitely much more me than any of those other characters in that series. Letty is like, her personality is kind of a copycat of mine, but blown up, like, completely blown out of proportion. It's me times like infinity.
it's almost like you're it's like if you were to dress up as Letty, say like in a wrestling ring.
Yes.
That's the sort of like persona that you would take, like somebody that can reach from the ring all the way up to the highest seat out there in the arena.
Yes. Letty is big. She's just, that's a good word for her. She's just really big. Her personality just kind of, she walks into a room, she eats up all the air. That's just Letty. Nice. Yeah. Nice. I love her.
So Beats did Beats get the same sort of success? I know that you said Strings was like your biggest seller, right? But were the readers coming back for Beats and still asking for more?
Yeah, I think I did have a lot of success with beats. Obviously, I mean, anytime you have a series, the first one's always going to do the best. For me, and I think it's probably similar for most people. The first book does the best. The second one, you might get half or maybe 60% read through. Then the third is, kind of cuts it in half again, or 60%. It dwindles as it goes, which only makes sense because some people get turned off by something, or they get tired of it or whatever, and that's fine.
Or it takes too long to come out with, which is what I'm dealing with right now. So yeah, I totally get it. It took 5 years to get Ever Upward out there, and the fact that it's barely making a blip right at this time is driving me nuts because it's my favorite out of everything I've ever written. So
Yeah, and have you done advertising? Okay, here we go, talking shop.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Is just like it came out. I was hoping to do like a sort of like a pre-order kind of build up for it, but I didn't really have the time to do it. We had to just kind of get it out as quickly as possible because we had some other other requirements that we had to just that we had to make, other different deadlines that needed to be taken care of. Had some upcoming events and everything that I had to make sure that I had the books on hand for.
Right.
But at the same time, at my last book signing just a couple of weeks ago at Barnes & Noble, it did very well there. I was able to get about 7 copies out of the 10 that were there sold.
Yay!
Thankfully, because I basically just said that if you take the chance on both Excelsior and Ever Upward, then you'll get like this. You'll get a free tote up at the front counter, and based on the sales that I went through and my fellow writer Rebecca Jaycox, since we did the signing together, based on the traction that we got for both of our part 1s and 2s, we wound up selling. I think it wound up being about 7 totes total. So
wow,
I'll take that as a win any day.
Hey, one sale is a win. That's what you have to keep in mind. I mean, I have to keep telling myself the same thing. If you can sell 1 book, especially to somebody who's never read your work before, that's a potential for many more books.
Exactly, and that's what I'm really holding on to. And the opinions that I've gotten from the people that have read Ever Upward so far say that are really liking it and saying that it is better than the first one. And I love the first one to death, and I will stand by that one as always. But at the same time, I needed to go a lot further with what I needed to do with Ever Upward to tell that story. And I'm really glad that it's working. And it's really inspiring me to really kind of keep pushing forward to get part 3 done. Because that's what I'm stuck working on right now. So, but enough about me. Let's get back to you, because you had your part 3. You had Nocturnes, which took a different direction from the a little bit, because you added 2 points POVs instead of 1 on that one, and a lot of the action was taking place away from the band,
right?
So which I remember being kind of taken with. I was just like, wow, that's a very risky direction to do with your part 3, because people are kind of expecting the same thing. The way that you're able to twist it around and still give them something that was there, only in a completely different way. Was that the intent, just to kind of just to mix it up a little bit because it was part 3?
I didn't really intend for it to go that way at all, but it was one of those things where when I sat down to write it, that's how it came out. And I was like, I don't like this. I want it to stay, because you establish kind of a pattern with a female lead point, first person POV in the first book, the same thing in the second book. Now, all of a sudden in the third book, you've got first person POV, 2 points of view, male and female. And it is a little bit jarring, and I had some readers who complained about it, and I totally get it. I don't hold anything against them for that. I understand. And I didn't want it to play that way, but I couldn't get it to come out any other way. I felt like if I only told it through one of their points of view, it wasn't going to be as effective for whatever reason. I don't know. That's how it came out.
Gotcha.
And then I went back to the first person for Rock and Bang. So it kind of, that was my little weird blip. But I still, like, I really love that book. I love all of those books for different reasons. Like, there's something to me something that speaks to me in each one of those books in a different way.
Yeah. And which I totally get. And, like, it felt like Rock was almost kind of like slipping back into like a pair of comfy shoes. Almost.
Yes.
Like, really,
yes.
like, okay, like, I know this, I'm very familiar with this character, and I know that, like, her readers are as well. So it did feel almost like a homecoming kind of feeling with that one.
Definitely. And the other thing about Rock was, I think of all those characters, Letty, I already said, Letty's the one I identify identify with the closest or most. Yeah. And, so it was the easiest for me to slip back into her. And I think if I were to write more books in that series, at least if I write one more, it would probably have to go back to Letty again. I get her,
Yeah. And Bang, is that, going back to Jinx?
Bang is the manager, Jillian.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that one, I knew that one was going to be risky because she's a lesbian, and so there's, there's a lot of lesbian stuff in there, and my readers are, probably mostly more interested in, male-female erotica or menage or whatever, but I felt like she had a story to tell as well, and so I just told it.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. And with this sort of series, there's definitely something for everyone. I can safely say that. Yeah, there is something for everyone. Whatever, it gets you going, as long as you heed that paragraph in the description. By all means,
warning.
If you read that, that's really just like you're in or you're out. It's just like if you're still in after reading that, no complaints about the type of the temperatures that things are going to go to, with that. So, so then to go ahead and get back over to, what was the feeling of, like, while you were doing that, you were also, in addition to working on the Hard Rock Harlots, you were getting other books off the ground at the same time, right?
Yeah. So, after Strings, I can't remember if I did Beats first. I don't remember the order, but maybe I did do Beats first. But somewhere in the middle of Hard Rock Harlots, I came up with a completely different idea for a family in Hawaii, because Hawaii is another thing that I love. And I went whale watching on the island of Maui and fell in love with Maui in addition to the whale. So I kind of got really hooked on Hawaiian culture and just the mystical kind of qualities of the islands, and fell in love with just the awesomeness of it all. And I came up with this idea. So it's a family of a sister and her 3 brothers who lose their mother in a car accident, and they have to make they end up having to, they turn to selling drugs to kind of make a living. It's not something they want to do, but it's really their only option. And it has, the first book is called Hot Blooded, and it's the Ohana series, because Ohana means family, and that's kind of their guiding force, is that Ohana is everything. And they'll do anything to protect each other, including, like, kill people.
Yeah.
So that series has a supernatural element to it that is, in the first book, pretty subtle. But it also, FYI, ties in to the Just Breathe series in a very subtle way. So
nice.
Yeah, there's stuff going on, and there's a connection between both of those series. So that family, the first book is Hot Blooded. The second one just came out in February. It took me years before I kind of got back to it. And the second book is about one of the brothers. And there's one more book I have planned that I have not written yet, but it's on my, to-do list. And then that'll finish out that series.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And so, so you're starting that one. Were you getting a really good feedback for that first one that you got that you got out there?
Yeah, there was good feedback on it. Again, it was a completely different book. So some of the erotica readers who were, expecting ha ha ha, like Letty,
Yeah.
may have been a little disappointed because it's a dark book. It's not funny at all. I mean, it's heavy. And so I think some people might have been a little let down by that, but the ones who, like that sort of thing seem to have enjoyed it. So anyway, it was an experiment, and it was, again, one of those, this is what I want to write, so I'm going to write it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, so you have the Hard Rock Harlots books, you have the Ohana books, going, and what else has been stirring in you that made you want to get back over to writing something else? Like, what are the latest ones that you've come out with since?
Yeah, I did a few just kind of standalones in between. I have one that was called Ghosts, and I wrote that one. I was having a major depressive episode at the time, and I was struggling to write anything. So I took a class because I was trying to get motivated, and one of the things that I really found important, or that I took away from that class, was that the person who was teaching the class said, you have to write every day, and that you can write a minimum of 500 words every day. Everybody can write 500 words. And, when you're kind of like spiraling in the depths of despair, you're kind of like, no, I can't.
It is rough, to get like one word in front of the other when you're trying your hardest to get something out there, and then just feel stuck.
Yes.
It's a terrible feeling. Like I've been struggling with that so much with this part 3 that it is just driving me nuts. Like, I mean, at the same time, like, I know I can get it done, but it's just like, okay, now let's sit down and let's get this done.
Yes.
One day, just like, I know. So yeah, I definitely know that feeling. So.
Well, that one, what I did with that, which I was like, I'm going to challenge myself. So what I did is I told myself, you're going to write 500 words a day.
Yeah.
And you're going to start a new book. And what you're going to do is write a 500-word scene. 500 words. It's short. It's like a page, if that. And I said, and to make it an extra challenge, it has to be exactly 500 words. It cannot be 499 words or 520 words. It's going to be 500 words exactly.
Really?
And so when I did that, it was like, okay, some days it would take me, I'm not kidding you, all day to write 500 words. And some days I got up, I wrote my 500 words, I went about my business, everything was great. But what ended up happening was I wrote an entire book, and then I started, the first part of the book, I don't know how many scenes that is, but it's each one of those first X number of chapters are exactly 500 words. Then the second part of the book, I started doing 500, 1,000, 1,500, and mixing it up. And it actually parallels what's happening with the character. And I don't want to tell you what that is, but it would spoil everything. But the word counts actually kind of mirror what's going on with this character. And then by the third part, I had kind of got my groove back. And then I was like, all right, in part 3, it's a free for all. I write whatever the chapter requires. But it was really a fun way to not only kick myself into like getting off my butt and doing something, but also to try to tell a story in a unique way. And it wasn't a very popular book, but I am really, really proud of that book. I love that book just because it was so different.
Yeah. It's the way that you did that with the 500 words and then 5,000, 1,500. It reminds me of what DC Comics did back in '93 when they did the whole Death of Superman storyline, because for the last 4 issues, including the big one, number 75, where he actually dies, you have what they did was great because they had a page, each page in the one that was like the 4th one away from the final issue. There were 4 panels per page. And then in the next one, there were only 3 panels per page. And the next one, there were only 2 panels per page. And then for the big one, number 75, every single page in that issue is one big splash page.
Oh, wow. That is cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like it's something that it's so subtle, but at the same time, it just ratchets up the tension more and more and more. So it's kind of like what you did with that. That's a really great way to do that. To really kind of, it's almost like you're focusing your reader, just kind of like, you know, to go through that journey with that character.
Yeah.
It's like when you're meeting someone really for like the first time, you're only meeting like tiny little bits and pieces of that person. It's only when you get to know them more, that's when you get those greater details.
Yeah. Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, that's a great way to do that. So so tell us a little bit about what your latest ones are right now, because you know the one thing I truly love about you is you just keep on, you're staying busy. You're constantly working to improve yourself, and that's something that I greatly admire, and it's something that I think a lot of other writers should as well. So tell us a little bit about what's in the what's in the pipeline right now.
Okay, and thank you for that. Ruined, the book that just came out, was one of my own personal passion projects. I love Norse mythology.
Nice.
I love Loki, because who doesn't love Loki? And of course, like, you watch the Marvel movies, it's like Thor and Loki, and they're awesome, and I could just watch them all day. And anyway, I just really got on a big Norse mythology kick, and I decided that I wanted to write a book about Loki, but you know me, I had to put a twist on it. So Loki, the Norse god, wakes up in 2019 in a block of ice and discovers that he has breasts, and he is not a he anymore. He is a she.
Wow.
And he's like, what? So, yeah, and it was like, okay, that in and of itself was enough to make me like, yes, I have to write this book. So the story is
look for you kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you read the Norse myths, and I have people say this all the time, well, Loki changed into different things. You know, he snuck around as a old woman when, you know, Frigga was was trying to get everybody to feel bad about Balder dying and all this, and he changed into a horse, and then he gave birth to Sleipnir, and you know, this isn't really unique. But what is unique, in my opinion, about my book is that in all of the other instances in the myths, he could always change back. He's stuck. He is a woman now.
Oh man.
And he's not getting out of this body. He is a woman. Yeah. That to me was the difference. And it's really fun because, you know, this guy shows up and he, you know, tries to help her. And that's the other thing that's funny is I refer to Loki now sometimes as he and sometimes as she.
Right.
So he's kind of fluid. So anyway, if you hear me say she, you'll know I mean Loki. But
gotcha.
Anyway, a guy shows up, tries to help her, and anyway, she starts like going, hey, he's kind of cute. And wait a minute, I don't like guys. What's this about? And so it's the whole thing of like, I have these hormones.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with them. And I kind of like him, but I shouldn't. And then, you know, of course, there's the reincarnated Odin's raven, Hugin, shows up, reincarnated as a chicken.
Oh, that's great.
Adds another layer of hilarity to the whole thing. So it was really, really fun to write. I haven't had that much, honest to God, I have not had that much fun writing a book since I wrote Strings.
Really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And now, yeah, I'm starting, I'm about a quarter of the way through on book 2 now of that series. So yeah, Loki is going to be back.
Nice. And Ruined is also the other audiobook, correct?
Yes.
And so what was that experience like, getting to hear the voice of Loki in that situation?
It was fun because for the auditions, you know, I am still new to audio, so I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. I have to kind of play around with things, but it was fun because the auditions were, you know, people were using all kinds of accents. We had, you know, British accents and Scandinavian accents and, you know, American accent. Anyway, it was fun to just listen to all the variations on the theme, and the narrator I chose is named Natalie Duke, and I just really liked her for Loki. I thought she had good kind of comedic timing, and which you need for this kind of thing. And so that one was really hard though, because there were so many good ones. It was one of those, oh my gosh, I have like 10. Any one of them could be great,
Yeah.
So picking her was a little harder, but I'm real happy with how it came out, and it just whisper synced the other day, so now it's all ready to go.
Nice. Definitely can't wait to hear that one.
Thank
So
you.
what kind of advice do you have for other authors that are stuck in their own heads, that are trying to get, one word in front of the other, that are trying to get their voice out there? What sort of advice do you have for them?
First of all, you got to write. I mean, and this is, I say this, it's like, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It is imperative. You cannot publish a book until you get those words out. And there are going to be days where every word is like a struggle to get it out, and every word just sucks. And the next day you're going to delete them all because they were terrible. And the thing about
Never delete. That's what that's why I always say, cut and paste. Do not open up a new document if you have, but do not, authors everywhere, do not delete your work. Cut and paste.
Thank you. I should have said that. You're right. Yeah. I do actually keep files of this is ruined cuts or whatever. Yeah, I do. Yep. I do that. But I mean, the point is that, you can't edit a blank page. So keep writing. Know that some of it's going to suck. Know that you're going to have to get rid of some of it and revamp it, or redo the whole thing. I mean, here's the other thing, is I've got 2 other books written completely, like the drafts are done. They're a spinoff for the Just Breathe book. So it's one of the most popular characters in that series was a fire elemental who was kind of like the villain, one of the villains, who ends up sort of redeeming himself. But he's one of the most popular characters in all of that. Everybody loves him. And I was I love him. I want to write his story. So I spun off, I have a planned 4-book series for that with him and several of the other characters from the Just Breathe books. And I wrote that book. I wrote the second book, and I hired a guy who used to be I can't remember exactly his title, but he was one of the big higher up editors at Random House, and he's one of these people who knows what he's doing. Oh, and wow. He edited both of those books, and it was like when he started to send me back the comments for Channeling Fire, which is the fire guy. He had to send it to me in 3 pieces because it broke Microsoft Word, how many comments he had on it. So I was those 2 books are, and he said he loved it. So I'm like, wow, I still got a lot of work to do. So, those kinds of things do happen. And so I fully intend to come back to those books and publish them one day, but I just needed a couple of years away from them before I can go back and try to tackle them. So just keep writing. Know that you're going to have to change things. And I don't know, write what you love, because if you don't, you're going to really hate your job, and nobody wants to hate their job.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and finally, where can our listeners find you?
You mean the books or just me?
Find the books, find you, whatever you want to disclose.
All right.
Obviously, I'm not saying send us your mailing address. No, I'm just, where can we find you in the world of social media?
Yeah, I am on, my books are all in Kindle Unlimited right now. So if you are interested, or if you're a subscriber to that, you can read them for almost free. And I have Strings and Runed on Audible and iTunes or Apple Books, whatever it's called. I can't remember. And Amazon. Social media wise, I'm on Facebook. I think I'm author Kendall Gray. I can't remember. And then I'm also on Instagram, which I'm really getting into Instagram lately. It's
Me too. It's definitely there's a refreshing feeling to it, where it's just like you have to create a post. You're not just typing little text and everything. Like, you're actually like have to get a picture to go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Just like it gets you a little extra visibility without the strain of trying to worm yourself into the mix of where all the politic posts are and all that stuff.
I agree. It's nice because it's for me, it's like, okay, I can just put a bunch of book stuff on here and that's it, or I can put other things on there too, but I like that. It's a good platform.
Exactly.
I'm also, you can go to my website, kendallgray.com. It's kind of under construction right now. It's, I'm consulting with someone about that. So it doesn't look super pretty, but there's that. And then of course, Amazon, you can follow me there, or BookBub, or Goodreads, or I don't know, all the places. I'm everywhere.
Yep. And you're here, and thank you so much for being here as the latest guest on Excelsior Journey. So for all of you, like I said at the very beginning of this, it's all about make art, not house payments. Stay true to yourself, tell the stories you want to tell, and by all means, write every single day. Now, granted, I am still trying to do the same thing myself. So I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to all of you. Write every day, get the stories you want to tell, put your heart into it, and let it see where it takes you. So with that in mind, for my guest, Kendall Gray, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward. We'll see you next week.